Coffee. Special coffee.
Hey there, folks. This is the Friday Hangout, and this is the place where we talk about digital marketing and advertising and social media and all those things related to that and business. And we have great folks on every single episode, people that we find fascinating and would love to talk to, and we use this as an excuse to get them on and talk with them. And, of course, I have my cohorts, a.k.a. Steve's terminology, cohorts. Steve Farnsworth. How are you doing today, Steve?
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Steve, of course, continually practicing out his Rosetta Stone on us. Let's see.
Las nubes machos, grande cojones.
Janet Fouts is with us as well. How are you doing, Janet?
I'm doing really great. I think that's kind of the sum Steve's Spanish, but maybe not. Maybe.
Actually, I know cuánto es and más cerveza, por favor. So how much is it?
Important things covered.
Yeah, those conversational, language phrases, right?
A lot of time in Spanish-speaking countries on those couple phrases.
And today, I'm really excited to say that our guest is Porter Gale. How are you doing, Porter?
I'm great. How are you all?
Doing good, doing good. I think Steve says it's coffee in his cup, but I think that's cerveza that he was talking about. And Porter, I'm gonna dive in for a little bit and share with the listeners and the watchers that are watching the video and listening to the audio what our topic of the day is, and then dive in a little bit to why we have you here to talk about it. All right. So we have Porter Gale on us, as I mentioned, and today's topic is the marketing value of video curation. So not just video, but video curation, the act of curating other content, video that's out there from other sources, and what the marketing value of that is. And to talk about that, we have Porter Gale with us. She's a marketing expert with over 20 years of experience, and she has written a really awesome book called Your Network is Your Net Worth. So that's a little bit different topic than today, but it's definitely worth checking out. And she's also a startup advisor, an advisor for a startup that produces a mobile app called Network, with the E in the word network being a 3. And I think we'll get to that in just a second, because I know that Janet, for instance, introduced me to that before we had you here as a guest.
Huge fan.
And I've been checking it out and using it as well. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, Porter, and we'll dive into the topic.
And aren't you noted as some kind of don't you have some distinguished? I think is one of the hottie marketers on the planet or something like that?
Oh my gosh, you have been digging far down the Google chain. Thank you for that.
Steve notices these things.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm
inquiring minds, Porter, inquiring minds.
Well, thank you. That's not the thing that I'm most well known for. What I'm really known for is that at one point I was the vice president of marketing at Virgin America. So I was with them for 4 years, and then I started advising a whole bunch of different companies. And that has been so much fun. I get to work with all these passionate entrepreneurs, one of them being the co-founders of Network, where I was lucky to meet Janet, one of our users on the platform. So I'm just thrilled to be here today.
Did you work with Julie, the VP of brand for Virgin?
Yes, Julie Catino. Julie, yeah, she was at Virgin Management in New York. Adore her. Super.
Yeah, no, she's actually been on the show before too, and I know her too. So.
Ah, great.
Oh, name dropping. I spoke with her on a panel. All right. I did.
I saw her on the show and got to talk to her. Right.
At any rate,
so now we have Porter.
So Porter, I mean, you've done a number of things. Video is not your main, the term I'll steal from Janet from earlier this week, bailiwick, but your Network 3 has sort of spurred this topic of curating video content, and ultimately, I mean, I think socially people curate content all the time, but for the sake of marketing, why video curation, and how can video curation help you stand out or achieve some sort of objective?
Sure. Well, just quickly on that, I actually do love video, and I have a master's in documentary film, and I love storytelling, and I think that branding and marketing, at the heart of it, is learning how to tell your story. And if you think about the power of video, how you can tell so much more in terms of emotion, story, feeling with video versus a picture or words. We're just moving more and more towards a marketing landscape in society where video is being more used, and it's because of technology advancements, right? We have faster bandwidth. We have people being able to shoot more video. So you're going to see more and more of this. Why is it a good marketing tool, and why do we want to curate it? There is so much video content out there, but have you ever had that thing where you're like, I can't even find it. I can't find what I want. I don't know what's relevant to me. I don't know what's relevant to my brand. And so network, what they're trying to do, I think the simplest way to describe it would be Pandora for video, right? Where you are programming channels based on your interests. So let's say you were a wine company and you wanted to curate a channel of content that's all about wine and tasting or regions where you can get different grapes. It's very easy to do on this platform, so we're really excited about it.
You know, the interesting thing that seems to have happened over time, right? I mean, I think it wasn't long after YouTube came out that everybody was like, oh, video is the next big thing. But there wasn't the infrastructure really for it to be the next big thing. It wasn't as easy to produce in general. I mean, you know, the quality of anything coming off of mobile was really, really low. And then we had networks and those who had the ability to create good video sort of poo-pooing the idea because of rights, right? And they thought, why would I want to just give away my intellectual property or my creative content all the time? How do you think things have changed? I mean, you mentioned a couple things, but how do you think now is the right time for this sort of thing?
You know, I do. We're also seeing, obviously, the recent release of the new iPhones, the larger phones with Samsung. So people are doing, you know, tablets and larger phones, and so they're better for viewing video content and on your mobile now. The other thing is that we're having a whole generation of, you know, millennials and younger that are coming up the ranks, and they've been aging with technology in their hands. They're mobile-centric. And so I think you're just going to see this shift. So I do believe that now is the time. There's still, you know, huge viewership on TV, so I don't think that we're going to be replacing TV anytime soon. But you are seeing more and more numbers in terms of tracking, you know, viewing video on mobile.
You know, it's actually interesting. One of the things I've always been surprised at how slow people have come to video. There's always kind of these little pop-ups of like, video is the next big thing, trust us. And it's still, people, I think, part of there's an adoption issue. I think when people get into video, they think they need to make it really complex, and they need to make it a big deal, and it needs to be all edited together, and it needs to have all the things. And it's amazing. You can create smart, short video super easily, and people like it if it's done, if it's crisp. What other kinds of things can people think about when they're looking at curation? You know, and the idea of creation is great in terms of bringing stuff together. What are some strategies if you're a marketer when you start bringing video together as a marketing thing? What kind of strategies would you recommend?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the most important strategy of branding, I think, is simplicity and clarity of what your position is and your kind of core attributes. And I always recommend to people that they have 3 core attributes and no more than that, right? So if you know exactly what you stand for, it's going to be easier to curate video around your product. I think one great company to look at, it's always used as a case history, but Dollar Shave Club is one that launched with a viral video, and it, you know, built their company overnight. And it had a subscription-based razor company, and their video has irreverence, great storytelling, and product differentiation, and it just went wild. And so I think that video can be extremely powerful if you are helping to curate it, because otherwise people get overwhelmed. That's called the paradox of choice, right? We don't want to give people too many things.
Yeah, the paradox of choice is always a challenge for brands because they seem like they want to be all things to everyone, and that really may not be the best approach for them marketing-wise. I think the other thing is that brands think often that they only create those videos. That's the only thing that matters. And curation is a really good way to do that, as you mentioned with the winery example. But if you're looking at, say, a bigger brand, how can they create a strategy around curation that helps define their brand and their place in the market?
Sure. Well, we are lucky right now. We're working with Funny or Die, so I guess I could use that as another example. They obviously have a very clear positioning of, bringing humorous video content to the marketplace, and they're using network for added eyeballs and distribution, and their channel, they're curating very, clearly around humorous content. So again, I think it's really defining what you want to do. The other thing that we're trying to do with the platform is really enabling social sharing, and I think that what you'll see is when you share out, and Janet, I've seen you share out quite a few things from within the platform, but if you share out with a image or a video, you usually have higher engagement in your social sharing channels in either Twitter or Facebook. And so that is going to bring more people into the brand too. There's a stickiness that video can bring if, again, it's curated, relevant, and has some kind of value for the user. And again, the curation helps bring value because there's more relevance.
But Porter, can I ask you on the first note that you said about Funny or Die? So is Funny or Die, because Funny or Die is actually producing videos, so are they, when you say they're curating, are they actually also curating content from elsewhere in their channel on network?
You know what, on their channel they're not, so I should clarify that. We're a very young platform. We just launched, I guess, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. We have been talking with a food publication, and in that situation they would be curating out. Maybe they would be letting their customers post recipes, that type of thing. So there would be a brand and a consumer play. I think lots of examples of people like, I would love to see Red Bull or GoPro do a channel. In those situations, you can definitely see GoPro using that. They could do their own content and then ask consumers to bring their own content and curating that into a channel too. So think of it like a broadcast channel, but you can now create it on a platform for free and instantly.
Well, and it's, I mean, so if we dive into the app a little bit, because we do want to make sure that the underlying theme is around marketing value of video curation. The app itself, I sort of, and I mentioned this to you on Twitter as well, is I think of it like you said, it's a young app, so there's a lot of additional room for it to grow, and being sort of early adopters that are here on the show. We've seen things, we understand the patterns and how things grow, and sort of getting in and using a tool early. And in my opinion, there's a lot of value already in the tool, so it's not like we're only the early adopters should use it at all. But if we describe a little bit about the tool, so I'm going to sort of take my opportunity, and Janet, I know that you've used it a bit as well, to sort of dive in. Essentially, you go there, you specify a number of interests that you're interested in, there's some channels that are available, and essentially I like using it on my iPad because it's nice and big and I see things, but it pulls up sort of serendipitously from all of these sources or interests that you've specified, content, video content. And when it pulls it up in a very sort of like Facebook feed, where you see a little bit of an active preview of it. So it's moving, it has the subtitle in it, you guys have nicely styled, so it's more than just a YouTube experience. It is quite sort of new age broadcast television in a way experience. I had actually a cousin of mine yesterday I was showing him a video on the app, and he said, that looks like TV on your iPad, in the quality of how it was done. And so when you go there, you frequently have this content, but there's this social element where that content you could then curate into your own feed by reposting it in the same way you might retweet or reshare something. You could just simply click like, and you can have a comment and that sort of thing and save it for later. On top of that, then you have the mechanism to allow yourself to upload your own content or just search and curate your own content into it. It feels a lot like the early days of Flipboard, where Flipboard was pulling all of this content together, and then eventually they started to make it easier for people to curate and create their own themed digital publications, and then took it to the next step to make those publications available on the browser, where you now didn't have to worry about saying, well, Flipboard only has X and Y and Z adoption of their app, which they started to slow and and a lot of people ended up adopting that. This is sort of where I see network going, in my opinion. It's a beautiful experience, a beautiful product, and then there's so much in the way of possibilities. Janet, what do you think of that? I know you've been using it more than I have.
Well, I use it quite a lot, actually. I'm kind of addicted to it because for me, my YouTube channel, for example, this show takes up quite a lot of my YouTube channel, but my YouTube is more my business presence, and I really wanted to have a place where I could curate things that I was really interested in. I have a food channel. I have a whole bunch of other channels. Good, Adam's showing off the app. So, you know, it really, for me, has been a really good experience to be able to curate that and to find other people. There are a couple people that I follow that, you know, have great stuff, and I'll actually go out and look for things to curate and bring into my channel rather than just stick with the auto curation aspects. And so it's been really interesting to see it grow. I think it is a really beautiful app, and it's very well presented, and I love that I can put it up on my Apple TV, and it can actually be kind of a TV channel for us. So that's my network love pitch.
Porter, I was wondering if like in terms of some additional ways to start, if you want to start doing curation, what are some additional ways you can use to help find sources for that curation?
Yeah, well, you know, I'll tell you a little bit, and not to go like too deep on this, but we are loading in 1,000 hours of new content a day from 6,500 sources. So we've got, you know, bots that are going out and pulling in the content. We also have live people that are curating based on interest types to make sure that the content's really rich. So
when you say sources, do you mean more beyond YouTube?
Oh yeah, on YouTube. So publications, anything that's publicly available on the web could possibly be pulled into the feed. But there's a really nice search bar. So let's say you're going to the app and you just want to find things on hiking, right? You could search that and find it. But then we have people that we've hired too that are experts in art or music or film. So there's actually really high value content in the app itself. So there's that piece, and then you can also be doing your own curation. The other thing, and again, not to get too technical, but I know that you guys are all techies, is that there is a, I would call it artificial intelligence behind it. So there's a swiping mechanism where you can swipe left or right, right? If you swipe left, it's I don't want to watch this video. If you swipe right, it's I want to save it for later. And that is learning. So the more you swipe left, we recognize you don't like those videos that you're being served. So the more you use it, the more relevant the content is for you. So
could you dive a little deeper about additional curation sources about how you might go about finding those, though, just to augment the that kind of process?
Yeah, I mean, well, right now I think we have probably 20 curators that we've hired based on their specific vertical interests. And then, the 1,000 hours a day. Other sources, we've just started a relationship with social media.
I'm sorry, I was looking kind of for outside the platform. Other, what is a marketer where I might go to help find other things? How I might find where the sources are?
Oh, for where our sources are from?
I think what I'm hearing. So I think what I'm hearing Steve say as well is it's harder for marketers in general to find sources of content, of video content, outside of, say, a platform like yours or some other ones out there that might actually have partnerships directly with these sources, and therefore you're sort of a clearinghouse or an aggregation place where if I search, I get to search across those platforms within your app. Is there a way that people who initially maybe weren't aware of Network or other apps like that, I mean, in general, is there a better way that for them to then, for them to go beyond just simply going to Vimeo or YouTube.com to find video, where they can find other interesting content that normally wouldn't be easy to find from other sources? Is it like going to a Network website where they have their own video platform?
Asking employees, asking your audience, those kinds of sources?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, there's, doing your typical Google search, right? I mean, that's one place people are always looking for content. Asking your audience is a great way to do it. For marketing content, I certainly turn to, trusted marketing publications to get relevant video content. Um, yeah, but with network, I do like that it shares a lot of times where the source is from. So if it's from a publication, it's going to have an icon in the corner. So you're going to know this is from the Wall Street Journal, this is from, the New York Times, that type of thing. But then it also clicks through. So if Janet was putting video up from her YouTube, she'd still get the recognized eyeball and it would click back to her YouTube page. So you're still getting the view.
So I wonder if there's any, in the future, plans for community-based curation. So for example, saying, let's take all the employees of our team, everybody go out and look for videos that are going to be relevant to the brand that we can then put in our channel, and having kind of a collaborative channel develop in that way.
Yeah, you could do that right now if everyone had the sign-in, right? If you knew what the password was, there's no reason that multiple people couldn't be signing in on one password. I mean, I love that idea. I mean, I'll be honest, again, we're a very new platform, and we are looking for case histories, and we're looking for innovative brands and people to work on things with. Steve, you had already, I think, tweeted out some ideas, and we talked about your ideas yesterday.
Or was that my ideas? I'm not going to let Steve take my credit. that was me.
It was you, Adam. But no, our CEO, I gave him the tweet, and he talked about your idea with the product manager. So we appreciate that, and we want to make this amazing and have this very surprise and delight experience. And I think that you guys have a couple of you have referenced how beautiful the platform is. We want it to be visually stunning also. It looks a lot better than YouTube. And I can't tell you exactly what's coming, but there are some amazing things coming within, a month time, where we're hoping that we'll have a lot more usage and have more platform applications.
Well, I think some of the reason for the quality of the channels that I'm seeing developing, although there are a couple people like Courtney, I know she has to be an employee because she shares she's very prolific and she shares amazing stuff. But I've started following people, and another one that I found that was really interesting was MC Hammer, who's sharing a lot of really great videos on his channel. So those kind of channels that are developing are really interesting to follow, and I think that brands could take advantage of that as well by following those channels and then sharing them out to their social media networks.
Yeah.
It's another way that brands or businesses, particularly small business that may not have the bandwidth to create these amazing videos, could be sharing some very high quality content.
So I think if we, because we're going to be moving on to our second segment here, and we want you to participate in that, Porter. I think sort of in order to close the loop on the topic of the marketing value of video curation. I mean, I think it's not unlike really the marketing value of curation of anything, any type of content, and so no matter whether you're searching elsewhere, like currently, without having, for instance, maybe a big viewership, and I don't know how many users there are, but bottom line is without saying relying on network or any of these other comparable apps as a place for viewership, you use it as a place for discovery. I think that's one of the biggest reasons for using something like that currently, and then over time things will be different, because as you said, when you go on there, now you have an ability to see, like, it's kind of answering Steve's question in a way, which is there's not really an easy way other than using an app or a company that is working with video or publications or whatever to aggregate this content to then discover all of it without manually going out and searching all over the place, right? I mean, this sort of loops back to that concept.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and again, for the small business person, Janet, when you're talking about them, like, I think about the people that have invested the time in to create video, and a lot of times you're like, wow, I wish I had more return from this. One simple thing you can do is, let's say you have 10 videos, you can load them in your channel, and then if you have an event coming up, send out an email to your employees and say, hey, I want you guys to be tweeting out these videos over the course of this period. it's aggregated, it's all consolidated in one place. You can use it as an amplifier to get the conversation going and get more value out of that video and out of that story. So
like a cue, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly, where it's all in one lovely spot and easy to access.
Awesome. So we want to jump onto our next segment here. We're going to cover a couple shares that we have, and I don't know how many of us have shares. I know that I have one, real sort of simple one, but I want to let Steve take a stab at it first. What's your share today, Steve?
Nice. Actually, mine was a study that was shared by SNCR, which is the Society for New Communications Research, and they were talking about how do customers like form the impression of a company. And so this is not going to come as a surprise, but it's something that I think we forget a lot. So most people were in the U.S. who responded to that, and they asked about 11 factors in forming an opinion. And what really stood out is like 8 and 10 rated the quality of the product or service, duh, right? But by comparison, the cost of the product and service was very important too, 55%. So there's clearly more people looking for value. But beyond that, and here's the part that I just, and we always talk about when you just sometimes don't give the thing, is like people edged out, gave 37%, were edged, were more impressed by what the customer care program was versus even beyond what friends and those people, folks said. So I mean, again, it's like we really are, with the information we have now, marketing really must work tightly or integrated in a way with customer care programs and the customer service programs. I actually had an experience with MoreWeb, which is basically I was doing I helped a friend, a small business person, and a personal friend of mine who's an auto mechanic who knows zero, get up on MoreWeb, and they basically, it's like a turnkey website. And so I had a problem, and the folks at MoreWeb, they responded to me instantly, like, hey, no, let us take care of that for you. And it's like amazing how much, all of a sudden, like, I went from just doing a little favor to like being a fan of MoreWeb of all things. So anyway, we'll share that on that link on the website.
I love that, though. I think you're exactly right that we're in this, real-time kind of transparency where people really appreciate that connection. It can make a detractor a fan.
That's always the best way, right? Is when somebody has a complaint. It's so common for people to say, oh, we got to shut that down. We can't let anybody know there's a complaint about the product. But, if you respond, you can turn somebody who could have been a troll, not that Steve would ever be a troll, into an evangelist. And it really just takes that reaching out and being human and talking to people that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's whether you look at something like that as an opportunity or not, right? And you have somebody who's provided feedback and they've done it in a public place. Oh my gosh, we've got to delete that, or we've got to hide that, or you could show everybody transparently how you respond to that and sort of change minds, because everybody knows people have bad days or have complaints here and there. It's really about how you respond to it that matters.
Yeah, agree.
Janet, do you have one today?
Yeah, actually, I have this kind of interesting post about Brightroll, and it's on onlinevideo.net, about how mobile video advertising is really taking over, and that's really kind of the next step, because we all have more bandwidth now. We have more video capabilities on our mobile devices, and so rather than seeing text ads or even image ads, which nobody cares about, people watch the video ads. And so that's really become something that marketers can use to great advantage with a very, very short, very precise, generally funny or insanely stupid clip that will get people to stick to it long enough to see the actual product. And I think it's been very interesting to experiment with that a little bit of ourselves with some of our clients and see that actually you do get a really good response.
I think it's really interesting where banner ads, display advertising is getting less and less effective, and even sort of general text advertising. Like I can't just, text ads on LinkedIn, for instance, are abysmal, and in a lot of other places they're not really. People eventually become blind to them being present there. But in a couple areas, on YouTube videos, it's quite easy to set up advertising on YouTube and to sort of manage that. And those YouTube videos I've seen can be anything from 15 seconds all the way up to even a couple minutes. And I've sat on a pre-roll and watched and enjoyed whatever the content was, because in a way you have an opportunity which is quite different than the opportunities we've had in the past of 15, 30-second, 60-second commercials where people really never did a good job of telling a story. But now, because you could basically do anything you want, you could take advantage of that on there. And then secondly, I think it has mobile gaming. That video itself actually becomes sort of a currency where when you have in-app purchases and things that you can buy credit for and all that, I can't tell you how many times where I don't want to spend $5 on getting some gold on some game I'm playing on my iPad, but I'm perfectly happy getting that gold for the game for watching a 15-second commercial about a particular, another game that the people have published that's similar or commercial or something like that. And so, yeah, I think it's quite interesting, the difference between text display and video ads.
That's funny. We had a story. One of the things I do is sit on the board for a thing called the Silicon Valley Brand Forum. We had one of the folks from forgot the agency, but they're working with BMW, and they had done this ad. And this talks about kind of the changing reality of video. So they had done an ad about a new car that was coming out, super secret situation on this ad, and it spent a lot of money, and the ad got leaked online, and they got within like a day or two, they got about 1.5 million hits on this leaked video, which fundamentally was the commercial, and BMW just went apeshit crazy about how the secret got out, and the brand guy said, listen, we just had 1.5 million people in the last 2 days, in the last 48 hours, watch our commercial for free. So let's cool our jets.
Do you think that really was a leak, or was it a?
It was a leak. It was a leak because actually we knew the guy, because the guy who was speaking about this was actually involved in it. So it really was a leak. It was from one of the guys actually on the production crew had leaked it. So it was a legitimate one. But you're right. A lot of people now understand. Nowadays, people are going. This is just a few years back, but now people are going. Things are getting leaked all the time. But there's a new way of understanding the way communication is and creating interesting content and allow things to have a life of its own.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know, I'm sure you guys saw the spot that Under Armour did about the ballet dancer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's great storytelling where you're watching it as entertainment, and you want to share it because you're emotionally moved, not because it's an ad, right? And then at the end, you're kind of like, oh, I guess that was an ad. But it's really a brand halo of doing something positive.
It makes me always pause a bit when I see, I'm trying to remember what it was that I saw. Oh, I'm going to talk about it, even though I told myself I'm not going to talk about it. So nice. I don't know if you remember that viral meme, the bedroom intruder, hide your kids, hide your wife, like a few years ago.
Anton, whatever his name was.
Antoine Bolden, or no, that's a football player.
But yeah, anyway,
one of those guys. But basically, they said, Antoine blah 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 weekly punches bedroom intruder, and I'm like, what? And it's trending on Facebook, trending topics, and I go and I click and I look, and I realize it really is the guy, I guess, that ended up getting caught, and it's that same guy, but they're basically backstage for preparing for a fight promotion that they're doing a month from now, where it's celebrity boxing. And when you watch it, it looks like they're getting pissed at each other and that they're really taking swings, but that's not the case. They're just trying to find a way to create a viral video for it. And so I often get caught in those places where I have to make a decision and say, I really want to share this, but I really don't. Because if I do, I'm basically, they've got me. What they were trying to do works. You know what I mean?
And it did work because you watched it.
Well, no, it'll work. It'll work that when I then share it as well, and then all the rest of the people turn around and watch it. I mean, and I mentioned it now, and people who are listening might go, "Oh, I want to check out that video." And again, it's about awareness for that fight, and that's all they want, is to create something that gets spread where they just happen to be going on November 2nd, November 2nd. Like, why are they saying the date all this time? Well, duh, they're trying to get
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
You got took.
Yeah. Well, I know that Facebook just made some changes around clickbaiting headlines.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact terms around it, but you know, less clickbaiting, because I think that's one thing that you get kind of tied in. You're like, the what? The ... and you want to know what is it? What's going to happen in the story?
I've made it a point when I find those, anything now that I find, even if it's relatively interesting, it eats basically 30 seconds of my day every time I go and look at it, right? And then there's some, I don't know, there's some internal human caveman element that makes you want to click those things. So I've made it a point to basically take any source that does that with their headlines and actually hide them completely from my Facebook feed, just for my own betterment. It's like not buying snacks and putting them into your cupboard in the first place. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, I was going to say, I just saw the other day this wonderful video about link baiting. It's two Irish guys. I will share the link. It's really pretty funny. It's just it's titled "This Video Will Change Your Life" with a picture of his woman's cleavage, and it was these two guys just talking really about the shenanigans of link baits and that kind of stuff. So we'll share that. It's kind of a fun video. If you want to take a look at it, it'll be on our website.
This video will change your life. That's funny. So I have a share, and we sort of a little bit on the video side as well. You know, there's a really large image sharing website called Imager, imgur.com. I know Steve, I've seen him share a lot of content from it, and I think it's actually owned by Reddit now, isn't it? Didn't they purchase it because a lot of stuff was getting shared from Imager to Reddit?
You know, I don't know that. I know that they've had a really close relationship, so it wouldn't entirely surprise me, but they've been pretty good at monetizing their site in the last year.
And interestingly enough, I think it actually started as really sort of an image hosting place where you could just take an image, host it there, kind of like you would for like a
quick pick or quick.
Yeah, exactly. But they just took off and have this whole conversation piece and upvoting and downvoting right below the image. But at any rate, they are quite a popular.
Pinterest for nerds.
What was that?
Pinterest for nerds.
Pinterest for, pretty much, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing that they did, and I think what we were discussing earlier, Porter, probably harkens to this, that, you know, there are certain times where things are ready. When the bandwidth gets bigger, then things can happen, you know, more people can download things quicker, video becomes easier because it's a larger thing, even images themselves became easier to download. I remember sitting back in the day, I don't know, a decade ago, a little over that, and if I wanted to watch people who did these big flash videos for like an intro for their site to talk about their animation services, you literally had to sit and let your browser load for 15 minutes to then hit play and watch that animation happen, which was probably a minute and a half, if that. I don't know if you.
How about when you had a modem, when you'd have to like, right?
When you, exactly. So you know, when I was doing that on my AOL under my username, but bottom line is there is sort of another, you know, sure, we've got bandwidth, we've come a long way since then, but mobile devices as well, people are sensitive about their data. We're going to become less so in the future, and so what Imager's done here, you know, GIFs and these little bite-sized motion things. Motion, you know, graphics, the animated GIFs have become very, very popular, but they're not also interoperable. They're not something easily shared across networks. Twitter, I think, has just started to finally support it. Pinterest in the last year started to support it. So what Imager has done is it's one of the few places that's had a lot of support for GIFs, but it wants to allow people to share them more often and for things to be on mobile devices. So they've created the GIF-V, which is that when you upload something, an animated GIF to them, they will convert it into an MP4, which essentially is a video, and it's about
modern video standard.
A modern video standard, and it goes from, for instance, they've got one here that went from being 50 megabyte GIF that they put in to being converted into a 3.4 megabyte video. That saves a ton of data, a ton of load time, and then in addition to that, it allows it to be more easily shared across all networks, because all networks support, for the most part, MP4.
Yeah, and it also renders more smoothly. So unlike GIFs, which which is like I think literally from the 80s technology. GIFs most people like when they first click on, you'll notice it'd be like really choppy.
Because it's loading one frame at a time, right?
Yeah, and so now because of the way they're changing it, it actually renders smoothly as it's loading in. So you watch it in real time, or real time is the video.
So to me, it seems like they're positioning themselves as being the go-to place for anybody that really wants their GIF to go beyond just one single supporting platform to go, and it will automatically do the conversion for you and so on. Anybody have an opinion on that?
I'm against
I want to know where you get a 50 meg GIF.
People creating them. I mean, that people are going in and they're actually grabbing snippets of video and then converting them into GIFs where they then add captions and stuff.
But that's the thing, right? So they're taking video and they're converting it to GIFs or GIFs, depending on whether you like peanut butter. And then they take the GIF back and turn it into a video, and it compresses it again.
Well,
the GIF, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. The GIF literally is a bunch of it's a bunch of stills stitched together.
Yeah, it's a bunch of stills stitched together. So what happens is this is sort of getting into the mashup culture of somebody grabbing a piece of content. Then, if you look at the GIFs that they have here, these in general happen to be a piece of film, a snippet of a film. But then they are adding on top of it additional things. Like there's no sound at all with it. They're adding captions. They're superimposing things onto pieces of it. So that's not how all GIFs are, but they're showing you really the possibilities. It's part of kind of a mashup culture, an expression, a sense of expression. And then once they're done with that, that's when it then gets put back into this format. So at any rate, interesting stuff that it says introduced. The GIF was introduced in 1987, Steve. That's what it says at the bottom here. So we'll have those in our. We'll have
the GIF was, but not an animated GIF. That
not an animated
been.
So we'll have a link to that and all the other shares in our show notes.
In case you just can't sleep tonight, lots of good stuff to read.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of good GIFs to watch. Porter, where can people find you?
Find me at Porter Gale on Twitter.
Awesome. That's it? Only on Twitter?
I mean, that's the easiest place to find me. I'm on there all the time.
And you got, I think it's portergale.com where you have your book and so on?
I do, portergale.com. I have another book coming out, too, that I'm writing with Shell Israel on.
That's what I thought. That's where I thought the name was familiar. Got it.
Yeah, that's why I look tired, so.
Shell Israel's kind of a co-writing slut, I'm just saying.
He is a co-writing slut. Yeah.
And Steve, speaking of, no, I'm not going to even say it. Steve, what do you?
You can find me at PorterGale, SexiestMarketerAlive.com, or at Steveology on Twitter.
Oh my gosh.
Janet, how about you? Where can they find you?
I'm just boring old Jay Fouts pretty much everywhere.
That's really long. That's an unusual but long title. Boring old Jay Fouts.
I couldn't get it into Twitter, so I had to just go with Jay Fouts.
Too many characters. And I'm Secret Sushi or Adam Hellway online pretty much anywhere as well. We want to let you know for the Friday Hangout, we appreciate you guys watching live if you do, because there are a few of you that do that at 11 o'clock on Fridays, 11 Pacific time on Fridays. You can go find us at thefridayhangout.com. Also, we have an app. If you download the Friday Hangout app on the Play, I like how Steve doesn't let me finish first. The Friday Hangout app on the Android Play Store as well as the iPhone app store. You can find it. Just search the Friday Hangout, and you have all of our shows directly in there. It's audio, so don't worry. You don't have to see our funny faces at all. It's just audio. And then you can go check us out on Spreaker. Get the audio on. No, we don't have iTunes again, huh? Because iTunes sort of.
Get iTunes. Put it on the app.
You know, I think iTunes is dead like Google Plus. Just saying.
Trolling. Keep those comments trolling, and then lastly,
Porter, you're such a good sport. We really appreciate you hanging with us and putting up with all our shenanigans.
Of course.
And you can see all of our videos.
Funny.
You can see all of our videos on YouTube, by the way, on our YouTube channel under the Friday Hangout as well. Porter, thank you so much for joining us and putting up with Steve. We really appreciate it. And you guys, we will see you next Friday on the Friday Hangout. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.